I'd like to call this meeting to order, a special meeting today. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Roll call, please.
Mayor Luis Trujillo,
Present.
Councilor David Romero,
He's on his way.
Councilor Elaine Rodriguez,
Present.
Councilor Michael Montoya,
He's excused.
Councilor David Olivari Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd just like to pause for a second and give thanks to all the good things that are happening in Las Vegas and all the good work that people are doing, and salute to the people who roll up their sleeves and get to work and help their citizens out. And there's so much happening of good things in the community that I just want to take some time to be thankful for all those things.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Olivari?
I just want to recognize Mr. Ravel Estrada, just passed away 3-4 days ago. The person, the family, and his family.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, approval of the agenda.
Can we meet with, this is a quorum?
Yes.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
There's a motion on the floor by Dr. Rodriguez. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please.
Councilor Olivari Jr.,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Rodriguez, a second by Councilor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Entertain a,
Mr. Mayor, we have no public input at this time.
okay.
Next is approval of minutes for July 14th, 2021.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from July 14th.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Olivari.
we can approve the minutes for July 14, 2021.
There's a motion on the floor by Councilman Olivari. Second, please.
A second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Olivari Jr.
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Olivari Jr., a second by Councilor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is presentations, not to exceed 10 to 15 minutes per person. Presentation by Mr. Chuck Rego, reporting on the 2021 4th of July fiestas.
Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Before you get started, Chuck, I'd just like to recognize the hard work of the Fiesta Council. I know that it was so iffy and touchy and touch and go, and if we're going to do this or not, but I have not heard one bad thing about the Fiestas. The community loved them. They loved the bands, the staging, they liked the sound, they liked, it just, I haven't heard anything bad. And I think everyone was just so excited to have a fiesta. And just like to tip my hat off to you and all the Fiesta Council for all their help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a gift from Mayor and Council. It's a signed copy of this year's official Fiesta poster.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What a treat.
Yes.
Thank you, Chuck. This one.
Grocery worker, nurse.
That's yours.
That's awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Carmelita was the artist.
Yes.
Do you remember her last name? Martinez?
I believe so. There's Councilman.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Carmelita Sanchez.
That's a really nice poster.
Yeah.
We, the council came to the agreement of the theme, wanted it, because this year, with everything that's been happening, wanted to incorporate our local heroes. So I'm sure everyone got a packet, well, the form that we sent out. So we had 15 vendors, 31 bands, and proved the vendors, the number of vendors worked really well. The people were very happy with it. The vendors were thrilled, so that worked out really well. You can see on the breakdown of what everything cost, the total. We weren't able to get the numbers from fire, so that one I don't know what we paid them in overtime. But for what we had, it was $100,987.24. We will get the report in September for our GRT to see where the spike was of what we actually brought in. The parade was a success. We had a pretty good parade, so we're very happy with that. We identified a couple of gaps. We had 20, I believe it was 22 porta potties. We had to increase that, so next year we'll increase it to 30. And more hand washing stations, and it have to be, increase the amount of times that they actually service them. We'll need more barriers, bike barriers, to go around the stage next year. Where we placed the stage, it worked really well. One of the main comments that we were getting from people was that they couldn't hear the music at their house, which was a blessing. And that's because where we put the stage, it became a natural amphitheater. So that worked out really well. The next year, what we'll have to do with Plaza Drugs is put some board up the windows because it was vibrating the glass. But Mr. Aragon said as long as we did that, they were fine. So that worked out real well. We're going to add more video monitors to the stage so people will be able to see. And we would like next year to incorporate Lincoln Park and Carnegie Park. Lincoln Park for the little kids and put vendors down there and face painting and all the stuff that the little kids like. And then you utilize Carnegie Park for the teenagers. Keep Plaza Park with traditional music. And we'll utilize city transport to get people back and forth. That way everybody gets what they want, and then we'd like to incorporate the river water. So
That's an excellent idea.
yeah, thank you. We want to bring back the fishing derby, the rodeo, the 5K run, and 10K run. Next year, Recreation has asked if they could take over the run, so that'll work. And then we're going to incorporate the Reina, the Entrega, and the Mass. So we'd like to utilize the gazebo for visiting royalty from Taos, Espanola, and Santa Fe. That's where we're at with the fiestas.
Chuck, could you do a quick, could you please mention the names of the people who are on the Fiesta committee?
We have Rosita Ellis, Judge Dwight Torres, Lisa Cisneros, Nancy Cololillo, Lieutenant Monica Vigil, Susie Seide, and myself and Sharon.
Sharon, what's your last name?
Peppo?
Hi, Sharon.
Sharon is our admin aide for events. So that's what we have. I don't know if you have any questions about fiestas.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Rivera?
how many members did you have in the Fiesta committee before that?
How many vendors?
On the committee, how many did you have before you guys? Were 10, 12, or
That's the number that
That's
I
it.
started with.
is,
We need to increase it if possible.
you need to increase it?
Yes, we've asked the board this next year each board member to take one task, whether it's rodeo or the run or whatever, and develop their own subcommittees because it's a lot of work. We've already started meeting for next year.
Have you ever tried to put on media or anything like that, or anything to get any more members involved?
The mayor, it is the mayor's committee, so we have new members requesting we run it through the mayor, and if he approves it, then that's the board.
Absolutely. I'd extend the invitation to anybody who wants to serve on the committee to call me and call our office, and we'll get you going. We will never say no to people who want to roll up their sleeves. So.
We did a survey through SurveyMonkey, and we surveyed all the merchants on Bridge Street and the plaza. We got feedback from, we actually got a letter from Plaza Antiques, forget his name, Andy Kingsbury, and he loved it. He praised the fiestas. All the comments we got back from all the merchants on Bridge and Plaza were very positive.
I mean, these changes that you're making, like what you talked about, have you put it out in the media or any comments from the media or anybody? Or just doing it from the Fiesta Committee?
We've polled people, but we haven't actually gone out and done a survey from anybody.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to see if we could put a survey out there and see what the citizens talk, say anything like
Okay.
And work with possibly the youth council to determine what youth type of, because you said you want to do teenage stuff.
Right, we'd like to have Carnegie Park for the teenagers.
that. The reason is because, the historical 4th of July has been everything at the park, whatever we do it, it's been historical for years and years.
Right, and we would keep that part of it.
Yeah.
We would just be introducing things for the younger people in different parts, and then we'd have city transport taking people back and forth. So it would just, the kids would have the music they like, food they like, and as with the little kids. And we chose Lincoln Park because it's fenced in to make it safe for the kids.
So you're saying, so once we start at 4th of July, you're going to have music on the park and on the rest of the areas that you're talking about?
Well, Lincoln Park and Carnegie would be DJs.
I would like to see a good survey on that, and see what citizens and people think about that.
So the main fiesta would still be in the Plaza Park.
Yes, sir.
We would just have activities for the youth at different parks.
Right, we would just be adding, we won't have the carnival. The carnival that we traditionally have has gone out of business. The other carnivals, we've polled other states trying to get a carnival, and they're all booked for 5 years in advance. We are on the list, so we're trying to see if we can get one for next year.
Thank you.
So if you were just envisioning this would be like if we took the little kids over to Lincoln, they would have the horse kind of thing positioned there, and then other face painting and,
Right.
okay.
Yes.
I like the idea of extending. to
We're just
external-
adding more
Adding
events.
more to it.
Yes. Keeping everything traditional on the park.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
I just, again, Chuck, I know I've told you personally, and, some of the committee members, I think you guys, like the mayor mentioned, you guys did a great job under the circumstances that we were in. I know there was a lot of confusion. It didn't help that certain individuals added to the confusion. But I think all in all, it was a great event. And I just say from here on out that, there's great expectations for next year. One thing that I might suggest is, I know you talked about these videos, screens, that if we could add those kind of towards the back of and add some live feed to that.
Yeah.
Just because if you're in the back, you could kind of hear the music, but you can't kind of see the musicians. So I don't know, that might be an idea to kind of consider with the audio video guys.
It is in the plan, so there'll be, if you're looking at the stage, there'll be video monitors on each side and in the middle, and then on the top, and then we would have live feed cameras around the park. So they'll get a shot of one set of people, and then the band, and just kind of moving the cameras around. That's for next year.
The other recommendation I have is, I would really love to see the national anthem performed right before the fireworks with a huge sound system. And we could have tryouts for, I could try out. I could sing the national, no, I'm just kidding.
In Spanish.
Yeah.
One of the things that we wanted to add for next year, and we tried it this year, but there was not enough time, is we have a lot of soldiers who suffer from PTSD. So those people stay at the park. So what we were trying to do for next year is have a live feed camera at the fireworks display. So if you remember when the band's performing, there's a screen behind them. You'll be able to see the fireworks just without the noise. So people would still hear the band that's performing, see the fireworks, and still be in the park,
That'd be nice.
out of respect for those soldiers.
And also, Chuck, if I can just, also, I think it's a great idea as far as expanding to the other parks, because at the end of the day, it's not just the Plaza Bridge Street businesses. If we could expand to Lincoln Park, that's gonna help Dick's, that's gonna help Charlie's. If we go to Carnegie, it might help, some of the other areas. So it's, the vision that I guess you're kind of seeing is that we're gonna focus on businesses all around where they get that,
Yes, sir.
you know,
That is why we didn't include the novelty vendors this year. It opened up the businesses all up and down the keyhole, and they all expressed that they did make extra business. That was part of the questions on the survey, if they were open and if they had an increase in business, and they all said yes. So that's we'd like to keep that
And
for
the
next year.
great part about that is that, those vendors that come in, 9 times out of 10 don't report their grocery receipts.
Right.
Even though they should, but they don't. We all know that. So those that spend in the actual building, in our stores, those are actually generating
Right.
GRT versus some of those other ones aren't, so.
And they all stated that they made extra business and they had an increase in customers. And we had parents thanking us at the park for not having the novelties, so.
For not having to buy a
Plastic.
inflatable banana or something.
Right.
Yeah. I know.
Well, I have Mayor and Council, Roswell will be back in town next week. They'll be scouting. They'll be setting up on the 16th. They'll be doing a chase scene on Railroad and the alleyways there, and then they'll be performing, videoing on the plaza. They'll be out of here on the 25th. We also have the Solar Challenge coming. So there was an article printed out from the Santa Fe National Forestry. With them coming. So it kind of made news.
Mayor and Council, before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to brief you on that the fireworks was originally at $35,000 due to some issues that were dealt with the day before. The firework display with the vendor, Chief Montoya was able to negotiate down to $17,500 instead of $3,500. So there was a savings on that line item there.
Wow.
That's a big decrease.
Thank Chief on that. So that means we have a bigger one next year.
Yeah.
Does that mean I have extra money for next
They
year?
did promise a lot of things, so.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Chucky, on the local bands, there are some bands that called me and told me they were a little upset because they were scheduled in some of the events. Can you, I'm pretty sure that I don't know how many bands we had out there. Maybe this committee maybe could take a look at that and the local bands that are, if they're interested in, eating for the 4th of July, anything like that.
I'm glad you brought it up, Councilman. So because we've been doing the Friday Nights Al Fresco, we intentionally picked local bands for the Friday Nights Al Fresco because they get to perform for 2 hours. The bands that we traditionally get for fiestas are headliners from around the state, and they only get like 45 minutes to an hour. So we didn't want to, through all this, so we've been having bands from May all the way to October. We didn't want to, we try not to duplicate too many bands. That was the reason of all that happened. Local bands got preference to perform at the park on Friday nights. We've been showing a minimum, our average is about 350 people every Friday. So that was the whole thing with the fiestas, the bands for the fiestas. We had 31. We always try to get like El Hurricane, all those people, Junior, and so that's how we picked it.
How many local bands do you have in the Friday Night Festival?
I'd have to count them. I mean, we've had so many bands, and we still have all the way to October to go.
And for the 4th, how many local bands that you have performing?
Once again, I'd have to count them. Like we had Jonathan Gutierrez. We had.
Can you give us a list? You give us a list on the two Fresco nights and 4th of July, how many local bands are playing?
I've sent you all a lineup. You also
Yeah, we
have
got
that
a
lineup.
lineup.
Yeah, I saw a lineup.
Yeah.
And that'll take you from May till October.
But I don't know, so you're saying in that lineup, they're all local bands?
For the Friday Nights Al Fresco.
Yeah. So we just have to count on your lineup.
Yeah,
and then
if
we'll
you
know
look
how
from the
many-
July 2nd to July
Okay.
4th, I believe, or 5th, those were, some were local and some were, most of them were out of town. But we always try to get the Mickey Cruz, the Gringo, and those ones, Sorelia. We always try to get the big headliners for Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the only fiestas in the state that actually pay their entertainment. Taos, Espanola, Santa Fe don't pay. That's why we get the headliners, the Darren Cordova and all that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Romero?
To add to that, and I guess this would be something that maybe city manager and Chuck, you guys could address, is I know that there's some bands that believe that they're worth more than what are paid. And I know in the past, there have been some bands that were overpaid. I know we paid headliners that were kind of ridiculous, 20 to 30,000, which
Yes, sir.
I know we didn't do that, which is great. You know, we did it under a budget that was, I guarantee, a lot smaller than many other years. But I think the big part, city manager, mayor and Chuck, is that we need to set a structure as to how bands are paid, because we can't have, I mean, of course, we want as much variety of music as we can, but we can't be at their mercy and pay whatever they want. I think we have to set the structure, and based off of that structure, either they want to play or they don't want to play, and that's up to them, because I know that did become an issue where they said they weren't offered, but I know that they wanted an exorbitant amount of money to play. So I think that's something that we need to set in structure, that way they know right offhand. You know, we can't make it too many, you know, I mean, just, we know that there's those bands that are worth it and some bands that,
Yeah,
you know,
we
that
had-
they're
we-
starting out. And
We reached out to a lot of the local bands, but some of them wanted like $4,000. We don't pay that. I mean, an icon like Roberto Grego, we paid him $2,500. The committee set guidelines for newcomer bands from $100 to $500, intermediate bands from $500 to $1,000, and professionals or headliners from $1,000 to $2,050. So, $2,500, I'm sorry. So we never went over that. Because of that, we needed to keep our costs down.
So for the years to come, we'll look at what Taos Fiestas, what Santa Fe Fiestas, Albuquerque Fiestas, what they're paying their bands.
They
and
don't
then-
pay.
Well, we'll look at, I know that they do, because Santa Fe did a IPR request, and the person that did it was the president of the Santa Fe Fiesta Committee. So we'll look at those things to see what they're paying, if there's any kind of scaling system for bands. I know that New Mexico Music Awards has some kind of scaling system as well, so we'll look at all those for next year.
the other question goes to Friday Al Fresco, is I know this year, you know, the city got involved in Friday Al Fresco, which normally we don't. And it seems like we've kind of taken control over that 100%.
Yes.
So I think something to consider is, you know, whether we continue to do it or just invest our money into the 4th of July and let Las Vegas First do their own. You know, those are things that I think we're going to have to look at, because, you know, we know that the planning and everything that you do for Al Fresco takes a lot of time. And I don't know how involved Las Vegas First is in it, but I think, you know, we need to make that determination early before we run into that problem. Well, I thought you were going to do it, or we were going to do it, so we could have those discussions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So, Chuck, you were saying that Taos and Albuquerque Fiestas, the bands don't get paid. Do they have committees? Do they get the bands paid for free? Or how does that work?
Yeah, as far as my understanding, they've never paid. I mean, I was on the committee for years, and they've never paid their entertainment. They ask for visitors. This is the first I've heard of it. I mean, they may have changed. I was gone for a number of years, so.
Have you talked to any other committees, how they're working to do that, or see that?
At the beginning, we spoke to Taos and Espanola. They didn't have fiestas in Espanola. Then we spoke to the Cuadrilla and to the council in Santa Fe. But I mean, it's changed. We weren't aware of that change.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for all your work, Chuck.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Sharon, thank you so much. Next order of business, please.
Business items, number 1, request approval of resolution number 21-32 to approve the final 2020-2021 DFA financial report for submission to DFA Local Government Division. We have our Finance Director, Jesus Quintero, and our DC, Dominic Chávez.
Thank you, Jesus. Welcome.
Mayor, Council.
Welcome, Dominic.
Good evening.
Good afternoon. You should have received a handout that is titled State of New Mexico Local Government System. That is the fourth quarter that was submitted this morning. Well, it hasn't been submitted, at least we finished it off in the system. We're waiting on the resolution to submit it. The first 2 pages are off the state system. The second page has totals on it. Then the next 2 pages are the revenues off of our Tyler system. And what you need to look for is our revenues, fiscal activity revenues. It's $42,699,827. And if you look at the DFA report, you'll see the $42,699,827, third column. And then your next 2 pages is your expenditure report off of our system. And your fiscal activity is $35,726,000. And that ties to your expenditures on your DFA report, $35,726,794. So that is cross-footing our system to the data we entered into the DFA system. And as soon as we receive the resolution, signed resolution, we can submit this afternoon.
The report is due by July 31st, midnight, July 31st.
Gotcha. Discussion? What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Livari?
to approve resolution 21-32.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Livari. I'll accept a motion. A second?
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Mayor, discussion real quick?
Yes, Mr. Romero?
So Jesus, in this resolution, there's one line, and just for the record, put you on the record here because we're going off your advice here. It says, in this, it is hereby certified that the contents in this report are true and correct to the best of our knowledge, and this report depicts all funds for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. So you're good with that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Olivares Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Olivares Jr., a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is request approval of Resolution 21-30 to adopt final fiscal year 2021-2022 budget for submission to DFA's Local Government Division.
Discussion?
I have some questions.
Go ahead, Dr. Rodriguez.
In reviewing the 2022 against the 2021 budget, I like that you put individuals in their positions. However, I'm not going to bring up names, but there's things that I would like for Jesus and the city manager to look at, and I'm willing to meet with you afterward to tell you. There's some individuals that received a $10,000 increase from fiscal 2021 to 22. And I think there needs to be an explanation as to that large increase over a year. there's other individuals that received anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 from one year to the next. I just thought some of those were kind of big increases from one year to the next, because when I went through all of the employees and compared 2021 to 2022, most of the employees, I'd probably say, probably about 96% had average increases, like 1,000, 1,500, in regards to pay and benefits. But then there were like 8 outliers where we had a big jump in some individuals that, like I said, received 10,000 from one year to the next, and either 4,000, which I call them outliers. So I would like for you to look at that, and if you could look at it and then kind of give us an explanation maybe at the next meeting.
Will do.
Okay. The other thing, let me see, I marked a couple. Give me a second, please. Okay. I also noticed there were a couple of individuals, again, in positions that were making a much more than their supervisors or director. What would explain that?
You'd have to take an individual. We've had people that were involuntary transfers, and the salary goes with them.
So if you have a voluntary transfer that goes from a supervisory position, they're getting supervisory wages in one department, but then they go to an administrative clerk in another department, you're still going to pay, we still pay them the high wages for supervisory?
If it's involuntary, it goes that way. The salary goes with them.
You're saying if it's involuntary or
Yes.
voluntary?
Involuntary.
Okay, okay, that might explain a couple of them. Let me see. There was also, I had hold on, 1 second.
And I believe years of service would play into that as well.
Years of service, which is understandable, definitely. It's just, it was like double. I thought that was, extremely, a big difference, if someone's wages is being doubled.
What department would that be in, Councilwoman?
I don't want to say departments or individuals. I'll be more than happy to share the information with you guys.
Okay?
I had one other. Take another question, and I have one other line item I wanted to double check on. But for some reason, I can't find it right now.
Mr. Romero?
Jesus and Dominic, going to the police department and fire department budgets. Have we accounted into the budget, which I don't kind of see reflected, for possible negotiations, if there are increases based off of those negotiations?
There is no budget by department for negotiations in here. Our budget is all under the general services, Department 5400, for all our service, for all our negotiations for salaries for the unions and for staff, non-union staff.
So when those are negotiated, then we transfer the money into?
We'll transfer from there to the departments to cover the wages.
Okay, and just for the record, could you tell me, on the city police department, it's like I was talking to the mayor the other day, we're having, concerns with drug enforcement, drugs in our community. So I told the mayor, we need to put our money where our mouth is. So could you describe if we've done that within this budget? Have we increased any funding?
I know that our chief of police, Crispin, requested monies for buildings. I think I put $200,000 in their budget for remodeling their buildings and painting and setting up the workstations for the dispatchers. They needed updated, their workstations.
So I guess let me be a little more clear. So have we increased the budget to address the drug issues in our community?
Individually, directly, no. But we did increase the budget for cars. Some of that money for the buildings, if they don't use it all, we can redirect it to overtime or...
So Councilman Romero, what the discussion that took place is that we have about 4 or 5 vacancies within the police department that we would collapse 4 into 2 to assist with the narcotics agent if that funding is feasible to try to hire. I know we're having a difficult time trying to hire those individuals right now, so that's what the discussion was. So there is budgeted line items for 4 vacancies, so we will try to collapse those to make those 2. So right now we have all our directors reorganizing their organizational charts, so it would reflect these types of changes, and then we'll present those to you in the next month.
Go ahead, Dr. Rodriguez.
3 questions, because you remind me of something. The one cost was under the Lodgers Tax Promotion Fund, and it went from, in 2019, for publications and advertisement for $65,000, and then it went to $83,000 in 2020, $65,000 in 2021, which I know that was COVID, and then it went to $334,000 in 2022. That seems like a huge increase. What accounts for that?
That was the request of Bill Hendrickson. He turned in that budget. I can't recall what exactly it was for. He said it was going to be publications and promoting tourism
That's
in
important.
town.
And he wanted to use up, the Lodgers tax did have a large cash balance due to non-spending, a lot of non-spending last year. So he wanted to use up some of that cash balance, and so we authorized him to pick up his budget by that amount so that he could absorb some of that cash balance in future years.
Well, clarify this for me, please. We did the retreat, and all the different departments and directors put in kind of their wish list. Council was supposed to get copies of that so that we could prioritize, but we never received a copy of that. Now, those kind of wish list requests, are those figured into the 2022 budget?
No. That whole American Rescue Plan, we received $1.5 million on the 23rd of this month. That is not in the budget. There's going to be a bar submitted to you in August once you guys can tell us where you want us to allocate it.
That was the wish list.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the money for the wish list.
Okay, so that's kind of, okay. So I still have this Lodgers tax promotion. I see the revenues coming in at, for 2022 is a little over 470,000. And of that, they're expecting to spend 334,000 just on publications and advertisements. So that's like almost,
Almost their
Is that
entire
right?
budget.
Mr. Romero?
Going up to that, and I've suggested in the past, at the end of the day, Lodgers tax is controlled by us, not by Bill Hendrickson, not by the Lodgers Tax Board. And one thing that I've suggested, and I've had this conversation with Mayor and others, is that we're also allowed for infrastructure with that money. And, and that infrastructure has to be related to tourism. The suggestion that I've suggested, and I'll say this again, because at the end of the day, we control it, and, I know we're doing our best as far as publication. I would like to be, we still haven't seen the results. We've asked for, we want a return. We're investing all this money in publication. Are we actually getting what we're putting into it? But the question that I have is, I think we need to start investing into our infrastructure as far as a convention center or something that we could start having events here within our community. Whether, some of this lodger's tax, we could start putting it into a fund where we're doing that. We, even if we start at a small facility or something, I mean, we could even do it to, I know, there's different varieties of Old City Hall, what it should do. I mean, somewhere where we're investing, it's not going into just publication that we don't even know, into publications that I've seen them publicly, personally, in storage sheds, in the city. I want to see something that we here as local people can also see, that money is being used, not just for a certain group of shopping within the community. If we want to host a municipal conference, we could do that. If police want to hire a law enforcement something, we could do that where we have a facility and we're attracting other agencies, other communities, and they're, we're bringing in the lodger's tax. I think that's one thing that we really need to look at is, let's put a cap on this promotions, and yes, heads and beds, but there's also bigger avenues that we could look at, where we could start building and then start attracting, because I don't think that we're doing enough of that. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, when speaking with the governor, and her last visit here, she was saying, if you guys really want in on the game with the movie industry, build some hangars, empty buildings, big empty buildings for storage or staging. She said we've run out in the entire state, there's no staging, there's no storage places anywhere in the state for the movies. And that would help attract, companies to this area or the surrounding areas if they had a studio space or a storage space. So those are the things that maybe we need to prioritize with that money, and start building up some of that recurring income. Okay. But yeah, maybe at some point we could have Hendrickson come in and explain that budget as to what the intentions are for that amount of money, because it is a large amount.
And the other part to that question, and I don't know if this is included in the increase, I know we have a marketing committee, and they were asked for $32,000, but I've never seen any other committee have the authority to spend any type of funding at all. So where is that money going to?
The only one I'm aware
Or they
of,
use
there
it
was
here.
10,000 that was earmarked for the chambers off of this budget.
Because I listened in on a marketing committee, and they were requesting 32,000, but I've never seen any other committee be able to dispose of funds. So that's a question, maybe you could,
Was that
that's happening.
Was that a recent meeting, or?
It was online, so I don't know how recent it was.
Okay.
They haven't been meeting too long, so.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Okay.
I'll also have a discussion with Mr. Hendrickson on what that 334 was.
Okay.
Okay, I have one more question.
One more, no, just kidding. Go ahead, Elaine.
At our previous council meetings, much of the council, the mayor and council, was our concern with what we kind of thought were low pay, for our city employees. And we discussed doing a comprehensive salary comparison. And we also discussed having kind of a progressive salary increases. So they're scheduled, and like from year 1 to maybe year 2, they're going to get this increase, and then we start increasing it. So within, I think, 5 to 6 years, maybe sooner, we're paying them livable wages, where a lot of our employees don't have to get 2 or 3 jobs. Has that taken place?
We have the Mercer study is supposed to return the results to us in about 2 months. And then we're gonna take that study and start applying it to the people. The way the Mercer study works, it starts with below market value, above market value. Anybody that's below market value, we're gonna start giving them raises to get them up to market value. And hopefully, we get everybody up to market value, and then from there, we'll go from market value to above market value for all our employees.
So we're looking at by October, we should have that information.
So, the Mercer study, we gave the Mercer Group all the information as of last week. They did tell us that it would take 2 months. We're kind of trying to get them to do it a little sooner because
Okay.
they already have a lot of data from these other municipalities that they just finished, because we need to use that in negotiations for some of the unions, which need to take place before the end of the year. So we don't want to have such a short time frame if we get it in October.
And I would like to see that be a priority. I know, we have a lot of other issues, but the wages are just ridiculous, and very low, So I think that has to be a priority for, I might not be here, but I
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like to see that as a priority as we kind of move forward.
And I think that's a trend. I think Highlands recently, the Border Regions just approved the minimum is $15 that they would pay any new employee. And I think it's a trend now, and I think we're going to see that grow. So I'd love to see the city go to, to a better starting wage for the employees. So, yeah, we'll keep it going.
Just one last-
Mr. Romero?
Going back to, I believe it's under the enterprise fund, the contract that we have to oversee the wastewater.
Is that Stantec or?
Solder.
Solder Millen.
Solder.
I know that we have given direction to the utilities director, and we never got nothing back, but we had asked for a plan on how we would eliminate that contract. One of the big issues has been that level 4 operator. And it's like I mentioned, I think we mentioned, all of us, is that, if we need to increase the salary for that position and attract and get that person, because whether we pay that one person $100,000, that's still a lot cheaper than what we're paying this contract. And that's a priority of mine, that, we need to get that done. And I don't even, if I'm correct, and you might want to check into the city manager, is I believe that we were supposed to have had already approved that annual contract, and that has not come before us. That's something that we need to talk about. And me personally, I'm at the point to where I think we're overpaying on that. That's my opinion, and something needs to be done. And we did give direction, that we wanted a plan of action, and we're here, close to a year later, and we haven't received anything. So we could make that a priority too. Maybe you've already looked into it.
I have. So I did have that discussion with our utilities director to make an aggressive move on salaries and to reach out to other parts of the country, because currently we only kind of broadcast here locally, maybe at the state level, but we really need to target East and West Coast for individuals that may already have that level 4 accreditation, because in the long run, it would actually save us probably $600,000 or so, even if we made that aggressive. And it may also entice some of our current employees to go after that accreditation.
I mean, I've been told in the past that we paid, and I know we paid for certain positions with this, and some of those positions have been cutting weeds, and I mean, come on, that's stuff that we don't need. So, we need to, really address that contract, and I think it's been overly used. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
And I like the idea of, offering it to internal employees even, and I don't know a lot of the rules and regulations in regards to personnel, but offer bonuses. Bonuses always entice individuals to get that level. And it'd be great if we could, instead of, not that I have anything against East Coasters and West Coasters, but it'd be nice that if we can internally and promote, and even within Texas, I mean, a lot of people in Texas with the oil fields and drilling and that, a lot of those individuals have those type of credentials.
We'll definitely look into that. It's actually two different contracts. One is for wastewater and one is for the water treatment plant. And both are for $500,000.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, with that one more, I know you, but I know we did ask, and it doesn't reflect on this budget, but I know that we had asked for those positions under supervision of the city council, that we also wanted, salaries to, right now, the budgets are set, so based off of review, with the clerk, the city manager, the attorney, the police chief, right now, there is no cushion for us to give incentive or raises. So is there something that we could do within this budget so we can increase those? Or would we have to do a bar later? Because I know we're going to be discussing, we're going to be going over some evaluations, I know, here soon. So I'm just wondering if we do, see those changes coming, what steps, or could we increase it since now?
Well, it's got to be submitted no later than tomorrow. So we have to do a bar at the time of,
So we're going to have to do a bar anyways to incorporate the American Recovery Funds that we just received. So we would have to send a bar, and we can send out any other updates that we need to at that time.
Perfect.
It's virtually impossible to project any type of raises that the council and mayor would like to give, or any negotiations that happen with any of the unions. It's almost impossible to project what they would to anticipate it in the budget, so.
Very well.
And the reason why I ask is just in my previous, let's say superintendent, we had a budget, we'd approve a budget, we would have a budget of 110, but we would negotiate, we started them at 100,000. And then, well, we wouldn't have to, go through any bars or anything at that time if we felt after an evaluation, say, well, you did deserve, we had that cushion, within that. And of course, at the end of the year, if we didn't do it, well, then that would be reverted back to, something that we could use that funding. Just my suggestion for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion on item number 2 for resolution number 21-30.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve resolution 21-30.
There's a motion by Mr. Romero to approve resolution 21-30. I'll entertain a second.
I have a second then.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Counselor Limari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Business item number 3, request approval of resolution number 21-33, disposal of 6 police vehicles, 60 ballistic vests, and 17 M26 tasers. Mr. Paqueta?
This is a request coming from Major Padilla. I just need a resolution from council so I can submit it to DFA.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
On the disposable on the vehicles, what's the process? I know here in this letter it says city will dispose all said equipment of having them hauled off by a wrecker. What's the process? Don't we go through a bidding process to where they bid?
It's been done in the past where we're not going to charge anybody or get any revenue from it. I think it was, the last one was taken here to the local scrap metal and disposed of there, and no revenue, nothing coming in. We just need the resolution to submit to DFA to make sure that they're allowed.
How do you, I guess my question is, what if another entity that does that, we can't, procurement-wise, don't we cover ourselves as to, we went with this wrecker or this disposal service because of these reasons?
Not aware, since we're not paying anything for it. Procurement is not involved.
No, we're not paying anything for it, but the person that we're giving this to, I mean, they make money off it. So what I'm saying is, that, let's say another wrecker service or disposal company say, hey, well, you guys are giving, because basically we're giving it to them.
For them to scrap it.
Yeah. Because metal costs, and I don't know, what does metal cost now today?
It's high, all the metal prices.
So an average car, $200, $300. So you kind of put it in figuration, all these cars, $300 a piece, we're technically giving them that much money. I know it doesn't, and I know it kind of seems confusing, but I kind of think that there's a process that should happen. I've seen it in the past. I know we've given them to schools. If when we give them to another entity or stuff like that, it's different, but if we're giving them to a private company, I truly believe that there's a procurement process that needs to be, as far as, we have these cars, you could bid on them, the record that, these wrecker services or that. If they give you $100, one guy might give you 110, you go with whatever brings in the most, generates the most revenue. I think that's the safest way, Mr. Mayor, because if it takes one entity to complain and say, we're giving these vehicles, those vehicles are worth money, and Mr. Ulabri, you kind of aware with this, but what's a vehicle run? Tires, engine, everything right now? $100, $400?
No, they're high. The scrap metal prices are high now, so an average car like that can go to $350, $400. So the thing is that, if you're just taking it to one business, I think you got to get some good prices for that.
What we can do is definitely do that, but the resolution before you is just to allow us to get the DFA to properly dispose of them, and then we can go after that to do a bidding process. Right now, the Las Vegas Police Department's wrecker service would be Highlands Wrecker, which has our purchase order. So they're the ones who would be hauling them to wherever they're going to go, or if part of that process is whoever's going to pick them up comes and gets them at no cost to them.
Yeah, that's kind of what.
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely do that. The reason I did this is just so we could be allowed to dispose of these, because they're of no value to us anymore, and they cost way too much what they're worth.
Yeah, and I get that. It's just, we've got to be very careful as to, we can't just give it to, a company and let them, they're going to make money off it. So if it's just disposal, then, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 21-33.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. There's a motion by Mr. Romero. I'll entertain a second.
Second, Mr. Romero.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And just
Motion
note for the
carries.
record that also that, the vehicles will be,
Disposed of in the proper way.
Yes, thank you.
We also have to look at other things. If they were purchased with grant funding, we have to track those grant funds for so many years, so we have to make sure that all those VIN numbers aren't tied to any grants.
Thank you. Next order of business, Cassandra?
Business item 4, request approval to accept Police Chief Adrian Crispin's resignation effective July 30th, 2021. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. The police chief, Adrian Crispin, has turned in his resignation effective July 30th. At this time, I will accept a motion to accept his resignation.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
Make a motion to approve the resignation.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Councilor Romero. Second, please.
I second that.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next order of business is executive session, if there is a need.
Mr. Mayor, Personnel matters H2.
Is NMSA 1978 10-15-1 H2.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to enter into executive session for personnel matters according to NMSA 1015-1H2 of the Open Meetings Act for personnel matters, police personnel matters.
Very well. There's a motion on the floor. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Cassandra. We will now enter into executive session.
And have council
Ready?
reports. If I can-
With that, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to return to regular session after being in executive session for NMSA 10-15-1 H2 personnel matters. And I'd like to know for the record that only those matters specified in the motion for executive session were made, no action was taken.
A second.
There's a second on the floor by, a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second by Dr. Rodriguez. Please roll call.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. I believe Dr. Rodriguez has a comment.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of say publicly that I've been getting a lot of calls from various residents, and they've been so happy with the cleanup, with all the cleanup that's going on in the city in regards to the Parks and Rec. I know we have some issues with weeds because we've been getting a lot of rain, and I think that's been unusual. And we're supposed to get a lot of rain this upcoming week, but residents are really happy. So I want to pass that on to the workers that are in those areas. So we're getting very positive feedback, and they're just excited because they're very proud of how the city is looking. So I
Thumbs
need to
up.
say. Thumbs
Thank
up.
you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Cassandra.